Welcome to another episode of Touring the AFC South. I am your host, Mike Patton. And on this episode, we're going to talk a little Cam Ward, a little Shadeur Sanders, the number one pick, and more. Yes, that's all we've got coming on this episode. It's going to be a action-packed episode. A lot of information being tossed around. We'll get into it in 1 second. But of course, to open up every show, I gotta start it off with the Get It Off Your Chest segment. And then this episode, I gotta talk about another person who was considered for the first overall pick. It seems like now not even really being thought about as the number one pick. And his name is Abdul Carter. The defensive end from Penn State was dominant during the season. In his first year playing defensive end full time, by the way. I mean, it was dominant. And, definitely raised some eyebrows when it came to draft experts and the things that they thought of him, looking at him and just the ability that he had to bend the corner, use his speed and agility and athleticism to just dominate opposing offenses and especially opposing offensive tackles. That hype got him and many other people thinking that he was going to be or potentially be the number one overall pick. When you watch his tape, yeah, you can definitely see those things. But the thing is now, no one has seen anything from him since he played his last game at Penn State. He has been injured, of course, with his shoulder and a arm injury, I believe, is what he's dealing with. Of course, he didn't work out at the combine, which that's not really that huge of a deal because a lot really don't do in terms of if you're a high pick, really don't get there and work out anyway these days. So it is what it is. But now it comes Penn State's pro day, and he's still resting with a shoulder and arm injury. He had the foot injury that, like I mentioned previously about that at the NFL Combine. Now we've got to deal with the shoulder and arm. It should be healed up and ready to go, I believe, when camp rolls around. But you just have to wonder, a few things. He's coming in banged up already. You wonder where he is in that process and how he has healed up, or is he still healing up, or if it's going to be a long-term issue potentially. You do wonder about that. But the potential is immense. Very, very immense. I mean, like I said previously, he's a guy that can, definitely dominate a game from the edges like a former Penn State Nittany Lion and Micah Parsons. So he has that type of ability and athleticism and agility. However, there was another guy back in the 2000 NFL draft that had a lot of different things going his way as well. His name was Courtney Brown. He was drafted in 2000 NFL draft number 1 overall by the Cleveland Browns. Never really lived up to that hype. Now, I'm not wishing that on Abdul Carter at all. I hope the young man does well. I hope he dominates wherever he's drafted, with every team. I hope he does well. However, it does have to draw a little bit of concerns that, he hasn't really done much since declaring for the NFL draft. But hey, doesn't mean he cannot be a star. Just, a little bit of a level of concern, just with the injuries and things like that right now. But that's just my thoughts. Had to get it off my chest. Now, let's get into the episode. I know you see the title if you clicked on it and listening. And I know you're looking at me and saying, hey, when are you going to get to this Cam Ward Shadeur Sanders number one pick? I'm right on it right now. Of course, this week was Cam Ward's pro day at the University of Miami. Of course, he came out. He did his thing. He had his receivers out there. He made them look good like he did all year in Miami. And, he did all the things that people saw from him that made them think that he will be the number one pick overall. For him, in his words, basically he was going out there to solidify it. He was very, very chummy with the Titans brass, which there was a lot of Titans brass that were in attendance at the Miami Pro Day. And it just at this point, it does really feel like Cam Ward is the pick for the Tennessee Titans, which that would be definitely interesting. Given last year, they did start a second year quarterback in Will Levis, who the previous year he came in halfway through the season, had some good games, had some not so good games, and this year he comes out and he has some scratch your head moments like I'm doing now if you're watching. And also he had some moments where, he showed a few things, but overall the consistency was not there with the passing of the football, the running of the offense, and generally just being an NFL quarterback just wasn't consistent, which, he's a guy in the second year. Some guys get it early, some guys do not. And bringing in Cam Ward, of course, just looking at the QB room for the Titans right now, yeah, Brandon Allen they brought in from the San Francisco 49ers was the backup to Brock Purdy last year. You have Will Levis, of course, and you have Tim Boyle, who they brought in from the New York Giants. So you have three quarterbacks, two basically that have been backups to the backup. Basically that's what they've been. And Will Levis, who last year did not step into that position and own that position. So it's presumed pretty much that Cam Ward will be the starter more than likely when he comes to Tennessee. If he is drafted by Tennessee, by the way, I'm going to put that out there. Nothing is for certain. It seems very certain, but in NFL drafts, things can change mighty quickly. So with Cam Ward, if he comes in to be the starter, it's going to be interesting just to see all the pieces around him, or should I say that are not around him right now. Now, I will say we have not had the draft yet. There may be some other weapons added. Who knows? Maybe trade some picks for a veteran wide receiver. I don't know. But I'm just going to take it as it currently is with the Tennessee Titans offense. Right now, they've added Dan Moore to Peter Skoronski on the left side of that offensive line. They switched over J.C. Latham from the left side to the right side. Now he's the right tackle. And Zeitler, they brought him in from the Detroit Lions to be the guard. Lloyd Cushenberry, he's healing up towards Achilles last year. I believe he'll be ready for the season, but we shall see how he is in that recovery and things like that as the offseason goes on. But just there, that line alone is better than the offensive line that the Tennessee Titans had last year. Now, I know there's questions that some have for Dan Moore. We'll see what happens as the season goes on. I mean, the Titans paid him a hefty check to come in here and be the left tackle in Nashville, Tennessee. So, they're hoping they get a return on their investment. We shall see. He is working with one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL in Bill Callahan. So, for what it's worth, he could probably eliminate some of those issues that he had in Pittsburgh prior to Tennessee. But with this offensive line, just looking at it on its face, it's better than what was last year, especially on the right side. You had Dylan Radens, and you had also Nicholas Petit-Frere, among other offensive tackles that stepped out there on the field, and it just did not end up pretty. So with that being said, of course, he'd have a pretty solid offensive line, hopefully. As far as weapons, still need a little bit of work there. You've got Calvin Ridley at one wide receiver. He was a 1,000-yard wide receiver, ninth player ever to have 1,000-yard season for 3 different franchises in the NFL. That's something of note. But other than him, you're looking at a wide receiver core that's a little bereft of talent. You got a Van Jefferson there, which, okay. You got a Bryce Oliver who's talented, but just not quite there just yet. You have Colton Dow didn't really get out there very much last season. You have some pieces there, but you just don't have a lot of guys who are like, okay, that's my number 2 to Calvin Ridley. That's this guy to this guy. You just don't have those pieces. So it's going to be interesting just to see if he is the starter and this wide receiver core stays intact the way it is. How Cam's able to adjust and how he's able to deal with this type of just lack of explosive weapons. Of course, some of these weapons could prove me wrong and go out there and be explosive, but just on its face, they don't look to have an explosive weapon outside of Calvin Ridley at the wide receiver spot. Tight end Chigaquanko definitely can make some explosive plays. Can he be consistent? Can he be that consistent force there? He could definitely be a weapon. Of course, you have Tony Pollard, who definitely did some things, did a lot of things that maybe Dallas Cowboys fans did not think he could do last year, but he definitely came out and did his thing, and he is a solid piece there. But just going off of those different things, and Cam Ward's back to his pro day, it seemed like he was very, very chummy with the Titans, and that like he said, he's solidifying it as being the number one overall pick for the Tennessee Titans. Now, of course, he did have a private workout scheduled with the Tennessee Titans. He definitely did. As of course, Corey Jackson is in the AFC South inbox. Of course, he's putting up the signals. Of course, those signals, if you are watching and you have watched University of Miami football, those are the things that Mr. Cam Ward does when he scores or throws a touchdown pass. So there we go. But, of course, there is other pro days. Other private workouts. For Cam Ward's having a private workout with the Tennessee Titans, had a private workout, I should say. There's a private workout scheduled there, but he's not the only one that is scheduled for a private workout with the Tennessee Titans. The other guy, Shadeur Sanders. I'm gonna, kind of break that down for you, give you a little bit of information there as well, right after this commercial break on touring the AFC South.
EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash are two of the best beard grooming products for men worldwide. They help promote growth, keep your beard moisturized and soft, and enhance your overall upkeep of your facial hair. And with the new promo code MPAFC10, you can get 10% off on these products. Just go to www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. Again, that's www.etsy.com/shop/EBO Beard Butter. And again, the promo code MPAFC10. Again, MPAFC10, where you can get 10% off any products except for beard boxes. So treat your beard better today by going to get these EBO Beard Butter and EBO Beard Wash.
All right, we are back on touring the AFC South. And like I mentioned before the commercial break, Cam Ward also had a private workout scheduled with the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Tennessee Titans brought all their brass down there again, which, of course, you got GM Mike Berganzi. You've got Chad Brinker, president of operations. You've got the head coach, Bill Callahan. You've got quarterback coach, Bo Hardigree. You also have the offensive coordinator, Nick Holtz. They all were there in attendance for the private workout with Cam, or they're going to be in attendance with the private workouts. Basically, in these private workouts, it's going to be, can they, are they solidified in the decision to draft Cam Ward? They're going to have meetings with him, dinner, all those different things, that happen within those different meetings. We'll see what happens and how that develops. He could, like I said, solidify the number one pick even more than he said he did in Miami's pro day. So we'll see what happens there. But he's not the only one, like I mentioned, that's having a pro day with the Tennessee Titans showing up. Shadeur Sanders will be having a private workout. And, of course, he's going to have his pro day too. With, the Tennessee Titans in attendance at the private workout. He's going to have a private workout for the Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns. Now, of course, April 4th is the pro day for Colorado. It's going to be after that pro day that he's going to have it. Not necessarily a specific date set. We probably wouldn't know it anyway because we're not there. But he's going to have a private workout for the Titans and for the Cleveland Browns. Now, at this point, Do I think that Shadeur Sanders will be the number one overall pick? I do not at this point think that he will be the number one overall pick. Do I think he could potentially give the Titans and maybe the Browns something to think about? For sure. He definitely can give both something to think about. I mean, if you look at Shadeur's game, sure, people criticize him for holding the ball, which Cam Ward did as well. But you look at the way he processes information, he processes it well. He doesn't have a stronger arm than Cam Ward, but I will not say that he does not have a strong arm. That's a misconception out there when it comes to Shadeur Sanders. He does have a strong arm. His arm's just not as strong as Cam Ward's. That's what really should be said right now when it comes to Shadeur Sanders. As far as Shadeur Sanders and his grasp of offenses, he's had a few different offensive coordinators, and he still shined throughout all of that. So do I think an offensive coordinator change or anything like that, or picking up terminology is tough for him? I don't think it necessarily will be the toughest thing for him when he goes to the NFL, when whatever team drafts him. I do think that he can be a solid quarterback, and he will be a solid quarterback. And to me, if I'm the Browns, of course, that people are saying that, they could go at number 2 with Abdul from Penn State. And while I understand that, you'd have, the dominant defensive ends at that point, and quarterbacks would be under tremendous pressure. Who's throwing the football on offense for the Browns? Is it Kenny Pickett? Are you really trusting Kenny Pickett? Did you see Kenny Pickett when he was in Pittsburgh? I mean, I would say this. He can be a solid backup, but I'm not sure he's a solid starter in the NFL. Or, are they going to start Kenny Pickett and not get Shadeur Sanders so that way they can, maybe be bad for Arch Manning or someone of that ilk? I mean, we don't know, but, if you're trying to win, I would say you might want to go with a quarterback. Shadeur Sanders would be that guy to me. He would fit in to what the Cleveland Browns want to do. They do have solid weapons there. You got Njoku, you got Jared Jeudy. You do have some weapons there to work with on that team. And to me, it would make much more sense for them to draft Shadeur Sanders there with all the abilities that he has. Of course, with, Shadeur Sanders doing well, who knows? The Titans may be behind the scenes entertaining a trade scenario. Do I think they trade the pick? Again, I don't think they trade the pick at this time. However, it has not been taken off the table. Do I think the Titans want to trade the pick? No. And do they sound like they want to trade the pick? No. So, I'm not saying they're trading the pick, but I'm also saying that it has not been taken off the table. So you can't just automatically dismiss it. However, what if they do trade the pick and trade down, say they trade down to number 2 and Cleveland's just gotta have Cam Ward. If that happens, you still get Shadeur Sanders, you get more picks, you still live good. Now, some will probably, boo at them or be mad at the Titans if they were to do that and get Shadeur Sanders, because, of course, some of the things that have been said about Shadeur Sanders when it comes to he's brash or he's this or he's that. Well, he's confident. To me, brash, it seems like you want to throw the brash term out there to kind of downgrade his confidence and his abilities. But hey, different people display those things different ways. And that's just how it is when it comes to different people, because we're all different in the end. It is what it is. But, I think that, that could be another scenario out there as well. But, there's a lot of different things, a lot of time. I mean, we're a few weeks away from the draft and finally knowing the answers as to what is going to happen when it comes to the NFL draft. Now, one other team in the AFC South has some questions when it comes to their pick. I've seen a couple different people picked for them at their spot. And that's spot number 5 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're kind of dive into that and see what they potentially could do with that number 5 pick. We're going to do that right after this commercial break on Touring the AFC South.
A shift. A shift is something that happens and changes the dynamics. And that's what happened when Garrett Logistics was born. After 10 years as a sales pro in the logistics world of sporting goods, John Garrett decided to pivot to the world of freight and start a brokerage. So you're saying to yourself, why trust Garrett Logistics? Well, Garrett Logistics helps shippers improve overall workflow, along with increased on-time pickup and delivery percentages. Last-minute loads, multi-drop pickups, and more are part of the services with Garrett Logistics. They're available Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., all times Central Standard Time. So give them a ring at 615-400-8484. That's 615-400-8484, or you can email them at john@garrettlogistics.co or visit their website at garrettlogistics.co. Garrett Logistics, where the motto is, it's not just freight to us, it's your business.
All right, and we are back on touring the AFC South, and like I mentioned, we're going to talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars and the number 5 pick that they hold. Now, I did do some looking around just to see, what some people thought about that number 5 pick. CBS Sports, they had Mason Graham, interior offensive lineman from Michigan. And, just to kind of throw a little different spin on it, Charles Davis, NFL.com, he does a mock draft there. He had Armand Mimbu, who's the offensive tackle for Missouri. So those are a couple guys that have been mentioned for that number 5 pick when it comes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, there is some other scenarios and some other players that have been mentioned, maybe if they potentially slide to them. But I just want to focus right now on Mason Graham. Now, just to give you a little bit more information, Jordan Reed actually thinks Mason Graham, he does a mock draft for ESPN.com, and Bucky Brooks also thinks that Mason Graham will be the pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, there are some other mock drafts that have different pieces, like I mentioned, Charles Davis, Armand Mimbu, Missouri. There are some other players mentioned as well, but I'm just going to focus on Mason Graham for right now. Now, looking at him, being at pick number 5, he's a physical guy. He's big. He's 6'3.5", 296 pounds. You probably like him a little bit heavier if he was, playing interior defensive lineman. You'd probably like him a little heavier than that. But, he is what he is at this point. Maybe he'll add a few pounds. We'll see what happens. But, his quickness in there he possesses. They say he can take on double teams. Got a little something to say about that a little later. Constant motion and effort on the field, which you can't teach. Motion, effort, anything like that. You can't teach it. And then also, he basically takes the battle to the blockers. He's not going to sit there and catch you. He's going to meet you at the point of attack and try to put you in the backfield too, basically. So that's a guy that would fit Liam Cohen in the kind of system and team he's trying to build, because he wants to build that team through the trenches. If you noticed, he did a few things there, but he's also trying to build this team to be a more physical football team, which that's what he wants to do. He wants to run the football at you. If you notice his teams in Tampa Bay, Liam Cohen's offense in Tampa Bay, they had 3 different guys running the football, and they ran it good. Eventually, Bucky Irving, the rookie, took over, but there was other backs back there that were getting it done. I believe they had like 3 backs over 500 yards, which is really good. You could throw any of them out there and make it happen. Do I think Jacksonville does that? Not for sure. We'll see what the plan is, but we'll see. We know that with Liam Cohen, he definitely likes to run the football and be physical up front and build it through the trenches. Now, when adding him, I would say that you add him, you throw Eric Armstead, who mentioned he probably will be back at defensive tackle or interior defensive lineman again instead of, lining up outside, which I didn't think was a good idea anyway. Now, you put him, you put Graham together, you bring Mason, Mason Smith, that is the backup as well. That's from LSU. You've got a nice little 3-man rotation there if you're Jacksonville. And then, of course, that'll be interesting. But, of course, I did mention his strengths. I did not mention some of the weaknesses that people have talked about. The length he has, with arms, things like that. that could be a problem, of course, because, offensive linemen try to get their hands on you. You got to get your hands on them first and take the show in the battle to them. So that could be an issue. And then, of course, shaking the big bodies with the lack of length too, because, there's some wide bodies in them trenches. So, that's going to be something to look at too. And then, of course, he doesn't have a go-to move. He doesn't really have a go-to move. Now, I will say, you're an interior offensive lineman, so I'm not going to be seeing you, with a move like a dancing bear. Probably he's doing more stunts and things like that anyway. But he doesn't really have like a go-to move in the trenches there. But, it's not a huge deal for me when it comes to an interior defensive lineman. But, that is something to look at potentially to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe, if he gets lined up on this guy, how's he going to beat this guy? Is he going to beat him with effort and guile, or is he going to come up and beat him with technique or a move? That's something to think about there. The Jags need him just to be nothing but solid inside. They really just need him to be solid in there. You have your Trayvon Walkers, you have your Josh Hines Allen on the outside. You do have linebackers that can run down and chase things as well. So, they just need him to be solid in there for that run defense because they do not want to get shredded inside in the interior. Again, no, they don't want that. So, but, that'll be an interesting pick if they end up with Brandon Graham. But there is a fly in the ointment, and that would be Travis Hunter. Now, I know right now a lot of drafts have Travis Hunter going to the New England Patriots. Him and Christian Gonzalez, if he plays defense side by side. Ooh, boy, that's nasty right there. That's a nasty comparison. Nasty duo right there, I should say. And then, of course, if you want to throw him on offense, you give Drake May his number one wide receiver. You got Stephon Diggs kind of show him the ropes, perhaps. Hey, wouldn't be bad. Wouldn't be bad at all. But, let's just say he doesn't go there. Do the Jacksonville Jaguars pick up Travis Hunter if that's the case? You bet you they would. If they don't pick him up, I don't know what to tell them. I really don't. But if they were to pick him up, say if he does slide to them, which, anything can and will happen on draft day, by the way. He would give them a corner opposite of Tyson Campbell to eventually be the star corner if they were to go that way with Travis Hunter. Offensively, if they were to go with him offensively, of course, you could put him, pair him up with Brian Thomas Jr. It gives you two of the best young wide receivers potentially in the NFL on one team. Oh, boy. Trevor should be very, very happy if that is to happen. It kind of pushes down Gabe Davis and, De'Ami Brown and those guys in different positions. But when you have a special athlete like that, hey, they got to worry about feeling some other times. You got to put the guy that's going to make it happen on the field. Of course, he could do both as well. You never know when it comes to Travis Hunter because, he did both when he was playing for Colorado. Do I think he's going to play both at the level he played in college? That'll be mighty tough to do, especially in the NFL, especially with the slight of build that he is also. But I mean, we've seen some things happen in the NFL, so you never know. You never know. He may just try it, and they may just let him. But it'll be interesting to see if he does slide and he's available at 5. Then boy, oh boy, I think the Jaguars could not race that pick up fast enough. I would mess around and twist my ankle trying to get that pick up there to get him so quick and so fast to my team. But, it'll be interesting. Just had to, kind of go down through everything that's going on with Cam Ward and Pro Day, his private workout, Shadeur Sanders Pro Day and workout coming, and what the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to do at the number 5 pick. Just kind of give you a little glimpse and insight on those different things. I want to thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. My name is Mike Patton. You can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton82. That's MikePatton 82 on the artist formerly known as Twitter and on Blue Sky. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general _MP. Touring the AFC South you can find on all listening platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, you name it, we are there. We are also on YouTube at the Mike Patton Network. Go ahead, subscribe, click that bell, whatever place you like to listen or watch, and support, comment, share, all those different things. I thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Touring the AFC South. We're going to get out of here. Peace.